right. Welcome, everybody. It's Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy right here on Fans Only Sports Network. I'm your host, Chet, and of course, I'm joined by my counterpart, Duffy. Duffy, how we doing on this beautiful March day?
Feeling great, man. And we haven't been on StreamYard in a while. Got a lot to talk about today with, a new season underway in the NFL. The 2023 NFL league year has begun. That's what March is all about. We have some March Madness also, so a lot of good vibes coming in the month of March. And, needless to say, I mean, this weather is going to get a little bit nicer as well these next couple of weeks. So good vibes all around the board. And, being with you on a Monday night, adds to it. And there's still some sun outside too.
Yeah, and the best part, man, no more daylight savings. We don't have to worry about that crap anymore.
Huh?
It's like, yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Usually around this time, it's pitch black.
Back into solidarity now, though.
Yeah, I hear you there.
Yeah, I mean, I still have to change the clock in my car. I'll tell you that. Do it every year. I was running on the hour behind for 8 months last year. November came around. I had an accurate clock for the last 4 months. Now back to it, and I kind of just like the adversity of trying to figure out what time it is. So I'm going to keep my clock wrong.
Yeah, you're going to challenge yourself here.
Challenge myself, baby.
Just get in your car, going to class, and you're like, wait, it's already 10:30 when it's actually 9:30 and you're right on time.
No, I missed my 10 a.m. Fortunately, I don't have any morning classes this semester, but
that's fortunate. That's always something you want to avoid, especially in your last semester at the University of Rhode Island.
Don't remind me.
Yeah, I know it's a sad thing, but when that day comes, man, it's a whole different chapter you're starting, and it's definitely something to look forward to. But you don't have to worry about that just yet. Still a couple months away until you got to cross that bridge. But we're going to cross a bridge right now at the NFL because, of course, as we mentioned and as we talked about before, free agency well underway in the league. The new league year started off hot with a lot of signings, and we'll get into that in just a moment. We're going to talk about the New England Patriots because this was a team we were extremely concerned about, very concerned about what this team was going to do. And to be honest, there were some moves here that were a little disappointing here and there, and some of them that actually made us turn our heads and go, okay, Bill, I actually like that move. That's not as bad as I was thinking it would be. And so as of right now, I'm just trying to get to my Patriots tab here on the NFL free agent signings. And when we take a look at what the New England Patriots have really put together, I mean, I really like the re-signing of Jonathan Jones because that was a guy that we didn't want to lose in free agency. They signed him to a 2-year deal worth $20 million. We lose Jacoby Myers to the Las Vegas Raiders, but we decide, hey, let's go ahead and take Juju Smith-Schuster, a young talent that we could mold into something on a 3-year, $33 million contract. And then the other name that sticks out to me on a 1-year deal is former Dolphins tight end Mike Gesicki. And that, to me, is probably the biggest splash that this team has made in free agency so far. So, obviously, Juju Smith-Schuster, for me, was a little bit questionable at the time, kind of going into it. Do I love the move? No, I don't. Do I like the move? It's okay. I mean, on my Instagram, I kind of put a clown emoji along with, basically a clown emoji in whatever thing I put up on my story when Juju got signed, because to be honest, it's like, do I really want this guy in New England? But hey, it's a weapon that they needed to address. Jacoby Myers, it's kind of a tough balance between the two of who to say is better. But at the end of the day, I think there's some solid moves here that have been made.
I mean, I agree. We were, like we always said, the last couple of weeks before free agency. I mean, we haven't done a podcast, I don't think, in 2 weeks. We were very concerned about this team's willingness to make these type of acquisitions. But I mean, it's looking solid. We have a really solid tight end tandem now with Gesicki and Hunter Henry. After trading Jonnu Smith as well, who's been, anything but productive the last 2 seasons in New England, coming on that big contract. Got Gesicki for pretty cheap, Juju for a relative price. Jacoby Myers got the exact same deal in Las Vegas the day before. Felt very slighted on Twitter the next day, saying, interesting. But these are 2 very similar receivers. 2 guys who don't make a whole lot of big explosive plays down the field. I mean, a lot of it's run after the catch for sure with Juju Smith-Schuster, but two guys who aren't really known for their separation down the field, I guess, and their big playability. I mean, two guys who go underneath a lot, run those short routes, whether it be drags or slants, and pick up some yardage that way. But do I think Juju Smith is a better receiver than Jacoby Myers? Yes, but barely. I think these guys are both probably ranked within like the top 35, 40 receivers in the league right now.
Yeah.
It's definitely not the receiver one that we want. I guess you could say. And Juju Smith-Schuster is definitely going to have a lot of trouble going against guys like Jalen Ramsey, who's going to be playing twice a year now in Miami, White in Buffalo, and Sauce Gardner in New York. Just to name a few of the elite corners in the AFC. But this is the Patriots team with the 14th pick in the draft as well. Highest they've picked in a couple of years, I believe. I think even higher than their 2020 draft pick. But it's a good start. Free agency for sure. I think the team is better now. Especially with the signing of Bill O'Brien as well. We mentioned that the last few weeks, and now it's add on to this. Solid players. Solid players on the board. Gesicki and Juju Smith, two guys who are. Gesicki's a red zone weapon. He has been for many years now. Creepily snuck in on us the last 4 years. I mean, we're looking at 4 years ago now where he, ended the Patriots' quest for a first-round bye in Week 17.
Yeah.
Juju Smith, I mean, he's declined for sure the last few years. A lot of that's with quarterback play in Pittsburgh the last few years, but even last year with KC, he had a 900-something yard season. I mean, obviously you have Mahomes throwing you the football, you're going to have a productive year, but he has a chance to lead this receiving core, be a leader, and poised right now, unless the Pats use that first-round pick on a guy like Jackson Smith and Jigba or some other receiver to kind of just be the main weapon on the Patriots offense, which I don't think any Pats fan is sold on yet at all.
No.
But it won't be that much different than having Jacoby Myers. I think he'll be a little bit more productive. He's a fast receiver. Came in the league at 20 years old. He's still very young. He's going to be 26 this year. Still, debatably hasn't even hit his prime. So we'll see how it goes. Very talented dude. And I didn't mind the trade. I didn't mind the signing. I mean, I thought that was a decent signing for the Pats.
Yeah, I don't think it's the worst thing the Patriots could have done. I definitely at the time was like, are you kidding me? Because there was all this talk in the offseason about DeAndre Hopkins. Hopkins, is a proven number one guy.
There's a little bit of talk still.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because before we heard word of that trade potentially being Cardinals are looking for maybe a second-round pick to get him. But then as the offseason really got underway, they started asking for a lot more, and it turned a lot of teams away, being like, I don't know if I want to dish that out for a 30-year-old guy. But at the end of the day, you know what you're getting with a guy like DeAndre Hopkins. With Juju Smith-Schuster, the thing is, he's only 26. He'll be 27 this year. There's still a lot of time to mold him into something a little bit more, or at least kind of push him into the offense that the Patriots are looking for out of him. Because like you said, last year was the closest he's ever been to a 1,000-yard receiving season. He's only had one all year, and that was in his second season in Pittsburgh. So, like you said, Patrick Mahomes was the quarterback. Now you're entering the Patriots style of offense, which is very much a spreading of the ball, just like in Kansas City. However, Juju was a top target there, and he couldn't stay healthy for a lot of that time. And so that's been another thing is he going to stay healthy? That's been a big question. Myers in New England, back-to-back seasons with around 800 receiving yards. Not a ton of touchdowns to back it up. Definitely had more last year than in most years, but I think there's room to improve here for New England. And I think with Bill O'Brien being signed, I think a lot of fans are just a little nervous because of what happened last year. There was no coordinator. There really was none. And honestly, it made the gears turn a little bit in my head because, I mean, obviously, the AFC East has only gotten better, and it's only going to get better. But I think the fact that this team has proven they have a top 5 D, or at least a top 10 defense in the league, and they nearly made the postseason last year without an offensive coordinator. That speaks volumes as to how much confidence Bill has in this team. However, it proved he needs that piece to move them forward. So, hey, they got a new addition of weapons for the team. They've got a coordinator who's familiar with the organization, has a history with the organization. Not only that, knows how to run an offense very well. So the fact that Bill O'Brien is the OC gives me hope, because we had that OC in Josh McDaniels 2 years ago when Mac Jones came into the league. Now you bring in the second season, you take that away, the whole equation's gone. We're back to square one. And now we're looking at Mac Jones as probably what he was going to be if he had no OC or not a good offensive coordinator. But I think the fact that the Patriots have made these moves, I think it definitely gives some hope as to potentially looking for that talent, or just, that offensive production that really lacked last year that we saw was a lot better in years prior.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that offense was abysmal at times last year. It was awful, especially down the stretch late in the year. This is a team that was 6-4 after 10 games. Finished the year with 8 wins, go 2-5 down the stretch. Really hurts, and a lot had to do with the offense. But some good pieces added to this team: Juju and Mike Gesicki. Also, James Robinson, who we have yet to mention as well.
Mm-hmm.
Only a 2-year, $8 million deal. You know how Belichick is with these running backs. Get another guy, that core, with Ramondre Stevenson, Damian Harris. Even some guys last year, Pierre Strong and Kevin Harris had a couple of good runs against the Arizona Cardinals late in the year. This is a pretty loaded team. And Riley Reif, offensive lineman, 1 year, $5 million deal, former first-round pick. And also re-signing our guy, Jonathan Jones, on the defensive side of the ball. Not a lot of work done on defense for the Pats. I mean, not the biggest pressing need going into the offseason for New England, obviously. But keeping a guy like Jonathan Jones after McCourty retiring.
And then even keeping Jabril Peppers on a 2-year extension, I think, was crucial too.
I mean, he doesn't really do shit.
But it fills in, but like we said, it fills in that coverage.
It's in the depth chart too,
Yeah, and then you get rid of Jalen Mills, who honestly I think needed to go. I don't think he really fit in too well into this organization and what we were trying to achieve with that. I just don't think he was a great coverage corner. Like, in my opinion, I didn't think he
definitely wasn't. He lacked a lot. We've seen his whole career, quite frankly. But
yeah,
crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. But good riddance to Jalen Mills.
Yeah, good riddance, I guess is the word for it.
He has more rings than me. He has more rings than me and you, though. So
yeah, that's true. And most of the players on that Patriot roster at this point. But at the end of the day, some of these moves were questionable, but I feel like they can work out in the long run. And we still got a whole long offseason to go. Really, we might not even be scratching the bottom of the barrel just yet. I do like kind of touching on James Robinson real quick before we move topics. Obviously, Robinson is a young running back. And the thing is, people, after Travis Etienne took over that backfield in Jacksonville, people seem to forget the beginning of the year that James Robinson had. The first game had over 100 yards and a couple of touchdowns, and then kind of continued that production only up until about week 3 or 4, because that's when Etienne really broke out and got into his stride. And the Jags were like, we don't really need him anymore. And so they sent him to the Jets. The Jets took him in, and he just didn't work there. He just wasn't fitting in well. And they were mostly going to Zonovan Knight for the most part. And Robinson kind of became a forgotten memory. I had him in my lineup, I'm pretty sure, one week, and they all of a sudden, an hour before the game, announced he's not going to be active, and there was no reason as to why.
Yeah, he got healthily scratched in his last game in Jacksonville. I had him in our league as well, our big money league. Got him in like the 13th round. I felt like a genius. He was RB3 after 3 weeks. I felt like a genius. I feel like an absolute stud. He had an ADP last year of 132 before the season started, an average draft position of 132 in fantasy leagues. I mean, maybe he's another sleeper for the Pats this year. We'll see. We'll see how these guys are. I mean, we saw with LeGarrette Blount in the past. I'm not saying that James Robinson's anywhere near LeGarrette Blount, but just the Pats, they Belichick somehow is able to bring out the best, and not particularly most of the offense, but usually always running backs. Whether it be through the pass game or on the ground. And I think Robinson, he might have found a home in New England. I mean, 2-year deal. See what he can do, and especially with the injury history to Damian Harris the last couple of years. Mostly last year, he had a good year. He had a great year in 2021. I mean, it is Ramondre's backfield right now, but Ramondre's a guy who, don't forget, he was a big piece in two crucial losses late in December last year. Maybe he's on a shorter leash and entering 2023. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
I like the sign, and I think it goes to show, kind of as a Pats fan, how low our bar is for a good offseason. I
Yeah,
mean,
it really is.
for a good free agency. I mean, we were feeling ourselves heavily in 2021 with, again, Jonnu Smith, Matt Judon, Hunter Henry. Two of those guys, or one of those guys, really panning out. One being solid, the other one getting traded for a seventh rounder about 10 days ago. But hey, I mean, we're gonna look back maybe at this podcast a couple of years, get some good laughs in, or maybe just be like, "Wow, we called that greatness,
Yeah.
greatness."
I
Hopefully,
mean,
hopefully the latter right there. So
yeah. I mean, as of right now, based on the way things have gone to kind of close out this segment, the way the AFC East looks right now, and the fact that it's already been a given that Aaron Rodgers is going to end up in New York one way or the other, and that the Bills are still going to be the Bills. The Dolphins have only improved even more than last year, and the Patriots have made the additions. But as of right now, I have the Patriots seeded as a third or fourth seed in the AFC East. And to be honest, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they finished dead last this upcoming season, just because of the amount of talent that is coming to the AFC East that we haven't seen since Tom Brady's departure, really. We haven't seen the AFC East be this competitive and this good in a very long time. So as of right now, I like what the Patriots are doing to answer, but is it enough? That's something we'll have to see as time goes on, and it has yet to be seen. So we'll see how things pan out there. But taking a look at the rest of the league, there's a lot of interesting moves that have gone on in the NFL right now. And I mean, I think the one team that I really want to talk about first that I think has done a lot in free agency and just in the offseason in general is the Carolina Panthers. This was a team that
say the same thing.
They finished third place in their division, second place in their division last year, nearly won the division over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, just couldn't take care of business in Tampa. Mike Evans went off for 3 touchdowns in that game to basically seal the deal. But the Panthers, they decide to give away a ton of draft picks to the Chicago Bears to get the first overall pick. And not only that, they had enough cap space to go out and get some really good guys. I like the signing of Von Bell on a 3-year deal. I like Hayden Hurst going there. Miles Sanders really surprised me. And then Adam Thielen yesterday, getting a deal done. This team, even though they lost DJ Moore and Christian McCaffrey obviously in the regular season last year, they've stocked up on some talent. And they got Andy Dalton now at the quarterback position. But the question is this team going to go out in the draft this year? Are they going to keep this number 1 overall pick? Because there's obviously still talk that they might give it away to get value back. But I like the GM moves here. I really do. It's taking a chance. And not only that, it's taking what you have in front of you and going out and spending it on talent to build around and to have a quarterback come in that either it's Dalton or you get somebody like CJ Stroud or Bryce Young in the draft and have them take the helm with a good system around them already.
Yeah. Carolina Panthers really making the most noise, I think, out of any team, like you just said.
Yeah.
This offseason, Miles Sanders, I think, was a great signing for them. This is a team that really lacked a run game after Christian McCaffrey got traded last year. I mean, I know Dante Foreman was solid at times, but splitting carries between him and I forget who the other guy was. It was Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah, I was gonna say Chuba Hubbard
or Chuba, whatever he is.
Yeah.
Good addition to that backfield. I mean, obviously it's not going to be as a run friendly system. Maybe with a great quarterback, it will be for Miles Sanders, but we'll see. Adam Thielen, good filler piece. I mean, he's definitely declining it, getting up there in age, but reliable guy, gonna be a good leader in the locker room too. And also like Andy Dalton is a potential opening week starter, depending on who they get in the draft. I mean, I think it'll be Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. Let's see if they're ready for week 1. But Andy Dalton, man, always a reliable backup. Well, needless to say. Let's be honest, he is.
Yeah, I agree.
I thought you were saying he wasn't. He's a guy.
No, I agree.
He can win the NFL.
I was just like scrolling through, and I couldn't my screen's just like freezing up. But continue.
Yeah, I mean, the speculation now is that the Panthers are going to pick Bryce Young at number 1 overall. I'm glad that we brought them up first because this is news from a couple weeks ago. Them trading with the Bears, getting rid of DJ Moore and some capital as well. I love the move for the Panthers. I mean, that shocked me. I was calling a URI lacrosse game here on Fans Only Sports, and I said it on air. I was like, "Whoa, Panthers just traded for the first overall pick for any football fans out there. Crazy stuff." I know Frank Reich, new Panthers coach, former Colts coach. I saw a TikTok earlier this week. It was, every quarterback he's worked with the last like 10 years has been a 6'4" plus pocket passer. So people think that CJ Stroud might be the lock at number 1 for the Panthers. Maybe a guy like Anthony Richardson. I mean, there's definitely a lot of kind of speculation still, which we don't usually see this late before the draft. I mean, we still have 5 weeks to go, 6 weeks to go.
Oh yeah.
Usually there's a clear-cut number 1 pick, I feel like, every year, especially the ones with quarterback-heavy drafts. Richardson, he's more of a project, I think, coming from Florida. Did not have a great year last year, but he has all the physical attributes to be great in the NFL. CJ Stroud, another guy who's physically gifted. He was a stud in college the last few years at Ohio State. Couldn't win the big games, though. And Bryce Young, I mean, he was the best quarterback in college football the last 2 years. Won a Heisman, threw a bunch of touchdown passes. Easily the best quarterback of the Nick Saban era, I believe, at Alabama. So there's a lot of options for the Panthers to go to, but them building this foundation in free agency, we haven't seen this Panthers team do any of that the last decade or so. I mean, this is a team that had a couple good years with Cam Newton, but they never really built him a great team around him, especially receiving cores and offensive line. I mean, one of the reasons why Cam ended up being banged up because he just kept getting hit down in Carolina. I mean, obviously he was a mobile quarterback. He ran the football a lot, took a lot of hits to the shoulder, which ended up being the demise of him late in his career down there. But this is a very promising Carolina Panthers team, and I think potentially they might be the team to watch next year with GM Scott Fitterer. I had to look up the GM since 2021, so he's really trying to redeem himself from the old Baker Mayfield shit last year. And I mean, franchise quarterback. Baker also signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, staying in the division in the NFC South. So.
And I think for Baker, that's kind of a good setup for him because he's already got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. He's got him, and not even that Rashad White being there is going to be good because he's got that weapon in the backfield, but he's got the receivers. The defense still looks like it could be intact. I think the Bucs, you can't write them off just yet, but the Panthers are making a case that they might overtake them. And not only that, the Saints have really geared up too this offseason. They're keeping Michael Thomas. They go and get Derek Carr. There's a lot of room in this South for any team to go ahead and get it. I mean, even the Falcons have made some great moves themselves. I think all the teams realize that without Tom Brady, this division is wide open. And I think the Panthers took full advantage of that this offseason. But the question is this GM's hard work going to pay off? And I think like we said, with anything else, time will tell. It will. And I think the next team that we're going to have to highlight, we're going to have to go out west into the next conference in the AFC and talk about the Las Vegas Raiders. Of course, we talked about Derek Carr leaving there, but they made some notable signings themselves, going out and getting Jimmy Garoppolo. That was an interesting deal to make right out of the gate. They tag Josh Jacobs. They go out and get Jacoby Myers. And really what this team has done to kind of address what's been going on out there, you get Jimmy G. I don't think that's the greatest quarterback you could have gotten, but it's the best quarterback you could get on the market because Derek Carr was not coming back. And for the Raiders, they needed
Jimmy G is better than Derek Carr, I think. Too.
He is. I think so too. And I think one of the down parts is they had to get rid of Darren Waller. His contract was going to be too big, especially if they wanted to keep Josh Jacobs down the stretch. They ship him off to the Giants. The Giants, that's a great move for Daniel Jones to have along with Saquon Barkley over there. But for the Raiders, you already have Devontae Adams. Now you have Jacoby Myers. I think what you see here for Jimmy Garoppolo to work with, it's good. It's good. It's got some good promise to it, but isn't going to be able to overtake the competition that's already in the AFC West? To be honest, no, I don't think
Absolutely
so at
not.
all.
Absolutely not. And I think, that kind of speaks volumes what the Raiders might do in the draft too. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo, Derek Carr, similar guys. I mean, same draft class, same round as well, second round picks in 2014. Similar stories between these two guys in their careers. Not really, actually. Derek
Except
Carr,
one of them actually making it to a Super Bowl.
and the other one actually playing games regularly.
True.
Different trajectories actually, but I think the Raiders might take a quarterback in this draft. I think they have the 9th pick in the draft or 8th pick in the draft. There's 4 really good quarterbacks in this draft. They're projected to go in the first round. The other one being Will Levis to add on to the 3 that I mentioned earlier. This is a team that I think you might take a guy at 9 or 8 if Richardson's still there. He's a project anyways. I think what was that 25th?
They're the 7th overall.
It's like what, dude?
No,
7th
yeah, I know. It looks like it's the other
Oh,
way
man.
around, right?
7th pick in the draft. If he's there, I think that's a team that he might go to in Vegas. Garoppolo, like I just said, he's a bridge quarterback. He's not a franchise guy, and I think everyone has realized that the last couple of years. We saw the Niners basically give up on him. Trading up for Trey Lance. Literally less than 2 years after he brought him to a Super Bowl. Less than just over a year actually.
Yeah.
After that happened.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. He's a system guy. He knows McDaniel's system well. Was with it for his first 3 years in New England. I'm not concerned that he'll have success. I just don't think that he's going to be the answer for anything longer than this contract. And I think with the way he's been treated and the kind of, image he has around the league now, that he'll probably, be done by year 2 maybe. I think they have an option in that contract as well for them to back out of the contract as well, the Raiders. So it's an interesting signing. I think the Raiders kind of they answered one of their problems, which was quarterback. A very similar situation, but this is a team that had a bottom 5 defense in the league last year, and the only guy you've signed on defense so far are Marcus Epps and Jerry Tillery. You signed Jerry Tillery. I mean, this is a team that their secondary last year was horrendous. We saw in a lot of games. So maybe you go there with your first round pick as well. I'm just surprised they haven't made more noise in that spot. Maybe try to get a quarterback in the later rounds, maybe like a Hendon Hooker in the 3rd round or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
And if not this year for a quarterback, there's always next year as well.
Yeah.
There's some good guys coming into the draft next year as well. So
yeah, because I mean the unfortunate situation for Los.
Before you start, it's the Raiders though. I've said this last year. I'll say it again. This team has never exceeded expectations once in my lifetime, or they did one time in 2016.
Yeah,
arguably last year too.
Yeah.
But besides that, they haven't even met them.
No, and I'm pretty sure this was a team that I almost said was going to, or might have even said that they were going to win the West.
Oh, and go back to your initial question that you started us off with. Will the Raiders have a chance to win the AFC West unless Patrick Mahomes tears his ACL and Justin Herbert breaks his collarbone?
And Russell Wilson somehow slips and falls on a banana peel and splits his head open? No.
I was going to throw Russ in there too, but he was pretty shit last year.
Hey, I like
Sean Payton's that guy. Super Bowl winning coach, elite offense year in, year out. But I mean, the Raiders, I think they host the Super Bowl next year as well, too. So maybe they'll be fighting extra hard for that Vegas party. I don't know. Probably not though. I think this team is going to go from 6-11 to probably 7-10.
Yeah, I think they've made some good improvements here, but at the end of the day, you got too much talent in the West, and I still think they're going to be a fringe 3rd seed or dead last in that AFC West division. There's just not a lot of promise for them, and it's just tough. It's tough when you got that much talent in the quarterback class, and not only that, just as teams in general. And that's the problem with the AFC right now. It's just overloaded with talent, and I mean, hey, but it makes it for a much more entertaining postseason and regular season for that matter. So I think the last team.
This team was in the NFC South, though.
Might pick them to win it, man. But
Yeah.
they're not. They're in the AFC West.
Yeah.
AFC, I think this is the biggest margin of talent difference that we've seen between the AFC and NFC probably in our lives.
Yeah.
I mean, the AFC just has has at least two, franchise quarterbacks in each division. It's scary, for a Pats fan, an uncertain future. Maybe we'll get Arch Manning in 2026 or something.
That's true. That's true. That still hasn't happened yet. And of course, he's got the biggest endorsement signing of all time by any college player, and he's not even done. He's not even done with high school.
I was reading it. He is number 2 with $3.7 million, and he signed that 4-year, $15 million contract with Texas, which was crazy. Bronny James is racking in $7 million this year. Bronny James,
insane.
I mean, he's like the 20th ranked player in his class. Talk about name value. Genius marketing dad. Name your kid Junior. He knew then in 17, 18 years that these kids could get a payday. And, James and Manning, those are two names that are going to get you a payday. So crazy stuff.
Absolutely. And I think the one other team, there's still several teams we could talk about here, but I think the last team.
I guess what team you're going to say?
Yeah, go for it.
It's not the Jets, is it?
No.
Or is it Chicago Bears?
The Chicago Bears.
All right.
I definitely think the Jets did some great work. Obviously, we're going to get to that in just a moment. So we'll end up talking
Rodgers, Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, exactly.
Talk afterwards,
But at the end of the day, you take a look at what the Chicago Bears did. They traded away the number 1 overall pick, got a ton of real estate back for it, including DJ Moore from the Carolina Panthers. I love that because you are giving Justin Fields a chance here. You really are, because he proved himself last year, man. And this was a guy that you, Duffy, said, this guy is the worst quarterback I have ever seen in my life.
I didn't say ever. I said I wrote on Facebook in October, and at this point in time, it was warranted. He was by far the worst starter in the NFL.
Yeah.
The first 7 weeks of the year. And then, he rakes off a couple 100-yard rushing games and hits 1,000 for the year, and everyone thinks he's him now. And so are the Bears. I mean, trading that first overall pick. I watched him against New England. That's kind of when it changed my mind. I was at that Bears-Pats game, which is also the Bears' last win of the season. Coming in week 7. That team started 3-4, and they lost their last 10 games. So we can't actually. Justin Fields is really him. There were a lot of close games. That defense was horrendous last year. Was awful last year. Usually the Bears are known for their defense. Usually their identity is hard-nosed, run-stopping defense. And last year was the opposite. That's a team that scored a lot of points, but couldn't keep points off the board.
Yeah.
Well, Justin Fields, this is really, like you said, they're getting him help. DJ Moore, he's a guy who's putting up 1,000 yards with Sam Darnold and Teddy Bridgewater. Yeah. So he is an elite receiver. I mean, it's tough to call him elite.
Top 25, I'd say.
I'd say top 20. I mean, he's getting the top 20 guy numbers. After the market was broken last year with Christian Kirk, but
yeah,
I mean, this is a Bears.
But Christian Kirk proved himself.
I mean, he did. Yeah, he definitely did. I'm not throwing shade at Christian Kirk, but at the time, that was a crazy contract.
That was
the Bears. You heard a lot of offensive
$75 million.
Yeah,
for 3 years.
4 years, 84.
Insane. That's crazy. So much money.
But
yeah.
I'll tell you what, Ryan Poles, former player who was the GM, signed last year. He's getting Justin Fields the help, and this is a make or break year for Fields. I think if he struggles this year, I mean, I'm not saying that they've gotten the best guys yet. They signed Nate Davis from the Titans, a guard. There was a lot of offensive line talk last year. Signed division rival Robert Tonyan to a contract. Team up with Cole Kmet. It's going to be a good tight end duo, I think. Probably a very underrated one, as well. But and Tremaine Edmonds, we can't forget about him. I mean,
I was going to say that. And the thing is what I was confused about. A lot of the league, or at least what do you call it, sports networks, they were kind of criticizing the Bears for that type of a move. And for me, I mean, I like it because Tremaine Edmonds was a guy that really played well at that linebacker position in Buffalo. He is definitely one of the best linebackers in the league. And they gave them a C or a C minus for that signing. To me, that's a B. That's a solid B right there. Because like that's the guy. Like this team, like you said, they're known for defense. They had players like Dick Butkus, Brian Urlacher, some of the greatest linebackers in the history of the NFL have come from Chicago. Some of the grittiest and just hard-hitting linebackers we've ever seen. And even when Danny Trevathan was there, he was still solid in that linebacker position. But at the end of the day, I like the move that they made there. They address a hard-hitting linebacker that is usually in the top 10 in terms of tackles made on the field. And that's a guy you need. That's a guy you need there. And I think the Bears are doing a good job at not only just going out there and getting and paying for some talent, trading for it, they're getting promise of future talent. But I do agree with what you said there. This is without a doubt the make or break year for Justin Fields. If he can't put it together this year, especially with no doubt in anybody's mind that Aaron Rodgers is sailing away, heading out to the East Coast, to New York to go play with the Jets, that division's wide open. The Vikings, sure, you can say what you want about them. They're great. They're great, but that defense was the worst in the league. The worst in the league. And you're never going to win a game with a terrible defense. The Vikings, I don't think, have even addressed that this offseason. Packers are going to have to go with Jordan Love this year. And now no more Alan Lazard. I think that team's going to be a shell. And then for the Lions are probably my go-to favorite right now to win the North next year.
Sure are. And I think
especially David Montgomery going from Chicago to Detroit.
Yeah, I forgot about that too. That was a crazy sign. I mean, Jamal Williams out the door. He's with New Orleans now. Montgomery and Swift, that's probably the best receiving back duo in the league. I mean, that's crazy talent right there in the backfield. I mean, Swift, he's kind of a in and out type of guy, but he's got the talent. He needs better vision. He's always trying to improvise on plays. But back to Tremaine Edmonds though. A C grade is kind of disrespectful, but when you look at the last 2 years for Edmonds, it hasn't been great. He had 2 Pro Bowl years in 19 and 20. Was definitely well above average the last couple of years too, but he's still young. This is a guy who got drafted when he was 19 years old. Crazy to think. I think he's the second or third youngest drafted player ever in the history of the NFL. So he's still a young guy, and he's a veteran as well. I mean, this is a 24-year-old going into his 7th year in the league or 6th year in the league. That's crazy. That's some crazy stuff. That's savvy stuff. So I like it. I think it's a good system. I think it's to really kind of breed into that Chicago Bears mentality. I mean, that inside linebacker for the Bears. We've seen so many great inside linebackers for the Bears. Recent memory. I mean, we got Urlacher, obviously, Lance Briggs, Butkus in the past, even recently with forget who else, or Khalil Mack, on the outside, rushing the passer the last few years as well.
Lance Briggs, man, that's a name right there. That is a name. I love that one.
You know how my nickname is Jennings, dude? My self-induced nickname. I was trying to find a Tim Jennings Bears jersey on eBay. Couldn't get one. So, sticking with the NFC North.
Oh, boy.
With eBay. It is a Green Bay Packers Pro Bowl Greg Jennings jersey.
Oh, that's hilarious. I knew that's what you were going to have to go with. I figured that's what the name got inspired by was Greg Jennings.
No, we was playing Quiplash one day. Bro, Jennings.
Bro, what if we imagine we changed the show name to Chet and Jennings?
Dude, I was thinking about what if in my career I'm just known as Jennings? I would be disappointed in myself. I want to keep this Duffy name proud. This actually crossed my mind today. Yeah. Funny you say that. I was like, what if I blew up on TikTok and I had a podcast called The Jennings Show? Everyone just called me Jennings. But I'd be like, no, you have to call me Duffy now. TJD. I don't know, man. It just crossed my mind. But want to keep the family name proud. But hey, I would go by Jennings for multiple episodes, though. Absolutely.
It's true, because I mean, even with me at this point, I can't imagine. Obviously, back in the day, I couldn't imagine people calling me Chet all the time, but now it's like a lot of people, they just call me Chet. And it's funny because yesterday at work, we have 2 Chris's. And so when people would radio us, they go Chris, and we're like, which one of us? Like, which one? And my buddy at work goes, call Chris H Chet. It's like, it's just so funny.
Was one of your boys who came on the pod?
No, it wasn't actually. It was EJ's his name. Is my screen frozen right now for you?
Yeah, it is. It is.
No. Oh, there we go.
EJ Hall ski.
Yeah, EJ Hall.
Is he going to LaSalle?
He did. He's out of school now. He's at Rick.
Okay, because
he speaks very highly of you. He likes you a lot.
Yeah, because we follow each other. I think since our pod with the LaSalle boys last year.
Yeah, but, that's definitely because
he's
best friend.
You
definitely do. He's best friends with Ben Riccitelli.
I like Riccitelli. He was probably my favorite out of those two.
Hey, the Gamecocks, right?
I like Barrett a lot. Barrett was my guy too.
Oh yeah, Connor Barrett's great. But he actually, I was talking to EJ the other day, and apparently, his club team is actually in like the playoff dance down there, which is pretty cool.
Oh really?
I think he said they might be in the Final Four.
Riccitelli.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah. Shout out to Ben Riccitelli.
Shout out to our boy. He did Hollywood Chet at first. Didn't give him a follow back on Instagram at first, but
Chet I remember that.
Chet had the cojones to call him out on stream. Definitely was a big respect Chet moment, and he got what he deserved. So it was great,
bro. Everybody else in the pod had followed me except him.
That was the funniest part, bro. Hollywood.
Bro. It was so funny. And Ben immediately whipped out his phone. I just remember it like so vividly.
Me too.
Oh my God.
One of my favorite pods we made. That was awesome.
That was a great podcast episode. But we'll shift the topic back to the NFL. Those are the teams that I think have the top 3 teams that I think have made some great moves. We'll finish it off with 2 quarterbacks that still are kind of really up in the air. We'll talk about Aaron Rodgers real quick because as of right now, last week, Aaron Rodgers officially made it clear, I'm going to play for the New York Jets. That is the team that I want to play with next season. And in a way, the memes are going out everywhere saying, oh, Aaron Rodgers is the new GM of the New York Jets and everything. Just name them the New York Packers at this point. They signed Alan Lazard, yet nothing's been done. The trade has not gone through. The Packers and Jets are still talking everything out. And there's word, obviously, right now that the Packers are just trying to make sure they're properly compensated for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean, Rodgers did say on the Pat McAfee show, like you alluded to, that he does intend to play for the Jets. It's kind of saying that the Packers were the ones to finish the deal on their side. But I don't know, man. I don't know how much I believe this. This is a guy, Aaron Rodgers, who has been an absolutely bona fide prima donna the last few years in his NFL career. Absolute diva. Doesn't even mess with his family. I don't know, man. I think something has to do with him. If he does not play for the Jets next year, does this make him a bigger diva than Brett Favre?
Yes. It's almost like at this point he's trying to rival Brett Favre.
Drama queen, I guess. Drama queen.
Because honestly, I feel like Tom Brady has taken on the Brett Favre name in a way, especially since he leaves. And then suddenly the Miami Dolphins start talking to him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I think I might play again." It's like, dude, just shut up, stay retired.
Go make your $40 million a year in the booth.
For real, dude. This guy's got a $300 million contract with Fox. I can only imagine being compensated that handsomely. But at the end of the day, with Aaron Rodgers, I think the issue is, like, it's so funny because I remember I forget who was talking to about it, but like somebody said to me, they're like, imagine he just doesn't actually do it. It's like they just did all that work to have nothing. That could still happen, but the Packers aren't keeping him. That's a given. That is not going to happen. The Packers will not keep Aaron Rodgers. There is no way that bridge is getting mended back together. It's gone. The whole thing's burnt, and he did it himself at the end of the day. Sure, he can say, like, he kind of just played it off like, oh, yeah, like, he's just playing it too lightly. At the end of the day, it's all him. It's all him. And it's kind of sad to see where his career began and what it's gotten to. He was, in my opinion, hands down the most respectable quarterback in football and one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch. He still is. But at the end of the day, with the drama that came of the Packers constantly going to the postseason and losing every single time when they were the favorites in the NFC each step of the way. They were the number 1 seed for 2 years in a row, and this team couldn't win shit. They couldn't win shit.
It's the Packers team before Rodgers had only had 2 home playoff losses ever, both with Favre. And Rodgers has 4 or 5. And then even the crusher in Week 18 this past year. I mean, that's the game the Packers win against the Lions in Rodgers' career 9 out of 10 times, and it gets sold. I mean, Rodgers' last throw as a Packer is going to be an interception, which is very un-Rodgers like. He's been a great quarterback in terms of protecting the football, as we know. Crazy stuff about Rodgers. He's been a starter for 15 years. He's thrown only 105 interceptions, which is unbelievable. That's 7 picks a year. So he throws a pick every 2 games, which even seems like not even realistic for him. We've seen him have years where he's routinely thrown 4 or 5 picks.
And it's crazy to say, because there was a time I remember where Tom Brady was still, one of the top dogs in the league, but Aaron Rodgers rivaled him there. And there were many people who said, if I had to pick between the two, I'm going to take Aaron Rodgers, because Aaron Rodgers has the stat tracker and the record for being the most accurate passer probably in NFL history. It
was valid. It was valid it was a valid argument for a long time, until Brady started taking rings and rings and rings in the mid 2010s and all the way up to 2020 when he beat Rodgers in the conference championship. But Rodgers needs a change of scenery. I mean, this Jets team that he'd be going to is already way better than the Packers team he just played for. We saw it in week, I think it was 6 last year, somewhere around there. The Jets marching to Lambeau and just stomped on Green Bay, just beat them up. That defense that the Jets have is elite. Everything that went wrong for the Jets was because of one position, and it was the quarterback position. We saw even against the Pats that 3-3 game in week 10 or 11, 10-3 final score with the Marcus Jones punt return. That the Jets should have never been in that spot. I mean, they just needed 1 field goal. Pats definitely shouldn't have that game. That's besides the point. Aaron Rodgers will be a guy. He's going to be a guy who's going to take your team, going to take this team, not any team, this team with a lot of help on both sides of the ball, defense and offense. That receiving core of the Jets, very underrated. I mean, Garrett Wilson, rookie of the year, obviously.
Sauce Gardner, defensive rookie of the year.
Sauce Gardner, defensive rookie of the year. You got Elijah Moore, who was great his rookie year, but then was really inefficient. Wasn't good last year because of bad quarterback play, very much so. And who's the other guy that they got? Alan Lazard now. And in the backfield, Breece Hall coming back from injury. Beast.
Totally forgot about him.
Probably would have won rookie of the year if he didn't get hurt. I mean, the Jets had 3 legitimate rookie of the years in that team. They have an elite pass rush, good offensive line, good run game with Zonovan Knight, Michael Carter, whoever was throwing the ball back there was doing a good job, And Rodgers is going to make everyone on this team better. And I think that this is really the Bills. This is probably the Bills' biggest threat in the last few years in the AFC East is this Jets team with Aaron Rodgers. We saw glimpses of it the last couple of years with Miami early on this past season, with New England having a 2-game lead over the Bills in week 15 and blowing it somehow. That sucked. But this is a Jets team that beat Buffalo last year with Zach Wilson. We can't forget about that. And with Aaron Rodgers, you never know. This team could win a playoff game or 2. And I think this is a better team than he's had in the Packers the last couple of years. It's just a very complete roster with an all-time draft class last season.
So let's say the Aaron Rodgers deal goes through, which in all likelihood, I'd say there's an 80-20 chance that it will. If Rodgers goes to the New York Jets, where would you place them in the final standings of the AFC East?
1 or 2 easily.
Yeah. I mean, that's my answer too.
I think they'd go 11-6, and I think it would really come down to those 2 games against Buffalo. I think that if the league is smart, they're going to put a Jets-Bills game week 18 and potentially be the division decider in week 18. Division decider. Josh Allen, turnover machine, great quarterback, has all the skills. That's why he's thrown 35 plus touchdowns each of the last 3 seasons. He's phenomenal.
Yeah.
He hasn't really had that big test in the AFC East. AFC for sure. He's lost to Burrow and Mahomes the last 2 years in the playoffs, or 3, 2 or 3. 3. Yeah, 3 combined now. Yeah, jeez. Yeah. These years be catching up, dude. Jesus.
They do. They do.
But, Aaron Rodgers, man, he might have to send Josh Allen on a wild card mission. But I'm not going to ride Aaron Rodgers. I just think this would be a great situation for him in New York. Change of scenery. He would make that the best division in football easily, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I think
it's wary for us Pats fans for sure.
Yes, it definitely would be. But to be honest, it's exciting in a way for me to kind of see this happen. And as of right now, I'd say 60% chance of being the second seed. I'd say, okay, so it's for me right now, it's an 80% chance that this team is, or maybe 90% chance that they're the second seed in the AFC East, and then a 40% chance that they're the 1 seed in the AFC East. That's the way I look at it right now.
You said 90-40.
Okay,
60,
so
40.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I was just saying in terms of percentages, in terms of each, but in terms of the 1 and 2, like the 2 seed,
they're at least the 2. They're at least second. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, they're good. Without a doubt, I think, in my opinion, going to be the second seed. It would go Bills, Jets, Dolphins, Patriots. That would be my preseason lineup. But obviously, we'll actually have those predictions when we get the full picture after the NFL draft in May.
Yes, draft is a big factor, and Jets are a great example of that from last year. I mean, they had one of the best draft classes in recent memory last year. This is a team that has surprisingly great leadership. We haven't seen from the Jets in a long time.
Absolutely.
So, I'm excited for the AFC East this year. There's gonna be a lot of good games, a lot of dog fights. I'll tell you that. And you can't count out the Pats or Dolphins. Dolphins, team that made the playoffs last year. They started 8-3 on the season this past season. Great coach. Very potent offense. If Rodgers was going to Miami, then I would say that team's winning the division. For sure.
Yeah,
they don't have the same defense as the Jets, but that receiving core is disgusting now in Miami. But a lot to be done, and it's been about over a week now. We haven't had any official stamp in yet, unless it happened the last 52 minutes on this podcast that we didn't see. But I'm very excited. And we saw Zach Wilson also say earlier this week that that he would make a veteran quarterback's life hell in practice if they brought one in. Also, I just read that Matt Stafford is the backup plan for the Jets. They can't get Rodgers. Because the Rams, I mean, they said this week Stafford is, I would say on the trade block, but
he kind of is.
Yeah, they're going to listen for stuff for Stafford. So crazy.
Yeah, it's very crazy to see.
Which would be a huge sigh of relief for us Pats fans.
Absolutely. I mean, that would be a sigh of relief because it's a downgrade. But at this point, I mean, the writing on the wall is there. I don't know where he'll end up if he doesn't go to New York, which would be dramatic. But that's not obviously taking away anything from Aaron Rodgers because he is nothing short of a drama queen at this point. But that's the way we see things in New York and with Aaron Rodgers. And now we'll head to Baltimore real quick to finish off the show and talk about Lamar Jackson. So placed on an exclusive franchise tag for over $30 million over the course of 1 year. And of course, this team has tried over and over and over again to offer Lamar Jackson something that is worth his time, a contract that exceeds north of $200 million guaranteed to the man, and he's still saying no every step of the way. At this point, and I went on NFL.com, I didn't get to watch the video, but the main tag handle on the article / video from Ian Rappaport basically said the Ravens have done all they can. They really have. They have fought tooth and nail, literally dragging themselves into the dirt, trying to keep this guy here because that's how much they need him.
Yeah.
They need him more than he needs them, and he knows that. But at the end of the day, it's like sometimes it gets to a breaking point where neither side can come to it. And I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know. I really have no idea.
Out of all the franchise quarterbacks in the AFC right now, this is definitely the most uncertain situation. I think is Lamar Jackson. They let him test free agency this year, with the exclusive tag or the non-exclusive tag. No one else wanted anything higher than Lamar Jackson. I mean, this is Lamar Jackson is creeping heavily into that diva territory as well. I mean, this is a guy getting offered bags. He thinks he should get the Deshaun Watson money. In his defense, he probably should. Deshaun Watson didn't play in damn near 2 years and looked like crap the last month of the season. But that's a Browns thing. That's a Browns thing. Lamar has to realize that he's a guy who has missed the last 5 games of each of the last 2 seasons, costing his team a deep playoff run both years.
Yeah.
And 2021 was different. It was his first time really getting injured. It was kind of more serious. But this past year, there was a lot of speculation that, he was kind of holding out. We don't know how true that is. He said himself that this injury was more serious than the media had been making it out to be. He said he knew his body best or something like that. But
those are words.
It's a guy that I guess kind of feels slighted by how the Ravens have helped support him the last few years. I mean, his best receiver in his career has been Hollywood Brown, which wasn't terrible, but wasn't great either.
No.
But there's too many Lamar Jackson apologists. Kind of like there are too many Drew Brees apologists, out there. Lamar's a drama queen, dude. I mean, he has not had playoff success. This is a guy. His best year was 4 years ago now, and the league's kind of been slowly figuring him out since. I mean, not completely. He's still a difference maker on any team. I think makes the team better in any situation.
Yeah,
unless it's like a Kansas City or a Buffalo or something, but. He just hasn't been available, man, in December and January. And that's kind of one of the reasons why, on a different position, different thing, but same level of game breakability. I mean, Christian McCaffrey got traded this past season in October because he wasn't available. Availability is one of the biggest keys, for big contracts and loyalty from a team. And Lamar Jackson just hasn't been there for the Ravens the last couple of seasons down the stretch.
Yeah.
Injuries are an animal, but he also hasn't been willing to work with the team as well either. So, if he's going to keep declining top 5, top 6, top 7 quarterback money in this league, then that's on him, man. So, he'll be a Raven next year. I really do like Lamar and the Ravens. I think he really feeds in their identity and gives them more of an identity as a whole. But this is it's definitely not the best.
No.
More.
And
circumstantially,
Yeah. And I'd say with the situation here, there's faults on both ends. And for me, for the Ravens organization, the problems with what we've seen from them is they just haven't been supplying the talent for Lamar to take a step back and be able to be the quarterback. We see him jump between, he can run. That's a great part to his game, but that's become a majority of his game is he has to take the ball himself. And the Ravens designed the offense to work that way because they're like, hey, he's the playmaker. He'll make the plays. But you need more pieces. Devin Duvernay and Rashad Bateman are not going to be able to do that constantly. You need a number one guy that this guy can look at and be like, I got you, and I know that I got you because you're going to make it happen 90% of the time. The fact of the matter is the Ravens have struggled to find Jackson pieces to keep the offense consistency going. For Jackson, what I don't like that he's done, obviously 2021 we can forget about. And sure, he said some things about 2022 about, I know my body better. But to be honest, I kind of look at it as a load of bull because they even said he'd be out 3-4 weeks max. That's like about a month. 2 months in, come on, man. It's football. Your team's in the playoffs. Most quarterbacks, if they saw their team was in the position to win, they would not hold out like this. I'm sorry.
You think Brady would ever do that? No.
Hell no. Phillip Rivers played on a torn ACL. Phillip Rivers in the playoffs and lost to the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean, he had a crazy streak of starting games. Lamar Jackson, I mean,
even RG3 had nothing in his knee, and he literally got hurt because of it. Sure, that's Mike Shanahan's fault.
It ruined his career.
It ruined his career. But for Lamar, I think at this point there is a very other line of selfishness here. Sure, he had the league MVP year. He's made some playoff runs with the Ravens. But last year they needed him the most. And to be honest, if Lamar played in that wild card round against Cincinnati, they would have won the game. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, absolutely. They absolutely would have won that game.
And
I mean, they're a goal line fumble away.
Yeah.
From winning that game. I mean, they easily still could have won it. And I think if they win that game with Huntley and Lamar doesn't play against KC the next week, then we really start to see what Lamar is made of. If Lamar sat out that game, after 6-7 weeks of this injury, that would have been bad. It would have been bad. I don't know how much he loves this game, man. I don't know.
I don't know either. And then
he loves the game. Obviously, he's in the NFL, but how bad does
he want it? And not only that,
what is he 1-3 in the playoffs? 1-3 in the playoffs. Hasn't started a playoff game in 3 years now.
Yeah.
So,
and now the pet peeve with this whole thing is the contract. The Ravens, they are there. They have given him everything he could absolutely hope for. $200 million guaranteed. That's a lot of money. And the fact he's saying no is well, what more do you want? It's like talking to a brick wall at that point. That's a lot of money. That's more money than Patrick Mahomes and even Aaron Rodgers are making. You're asking to be the highest paid.
Not more than Mahomes, but
well, I mean, yeah, I guess. But basically, what I'm trying to get at is this guy is talking about being paid higher than Aaron Rodgers, the most highest paid quarterback, not just in the NFL, but in history. In league history, no quarterback has made $50 million a year. And Lamar is asking for that when, like you said, he's 1-3 in the postseason. And he's it's not, I think that speaks enough for itself. He's proven, but he's not fully proven, in my opinion. I don't think he deserves that kind of money to be, he's worth, yes, top 10 in league pay. Absolutely. Absolutely. But in terms of being a higher paid than Mahomes and Rodgers, get out of here. No way. No chance. No chance in my lifetime I would ever want to see that happen.
No chance. And
no chance.
Sure, we can keep bringing up the MVP, for a long time, for the rest of his career if you want. But, that's almost 4 years ago now. And in the last 3 years, look at his game log real quick. Last 3 years, he's missed 11 games.
It's crazy.
10 of which were in December and January. And in those 10 games the last 2 years, that's a 2-8 team without Lamar Jackson. So Ravens know that. Like you said, the Ravens know they need Lamar more than he needs them. I think both parties know that. And that's a lofty contract. I mean, you're trying to parallel the Deshaun Watson deal. I think if that deal doesn't happen, I think Lamar is signing with this team as a given already by now, maybe.
And not only that, there's articles out there that are saying most teams are kind of turned off to this whole sweepstakes because it's too much. It's too much. You'll bankrupt an organization. You'll ruin the cap space. How are they going to get you better players if you don't have the money?
It's impossible, man. I don't know. It's crazy.
And the Detroit Lions, I feel like, in my opinion, would be one of the top teams to go and get him. I really think they would because they've already got themselves a young core there, a great system that they could get Lamar. But are they willing to pay for it? I don't think so. I really don't.
Lamar on Detroit would be crazy, huh? Jeez.
They'd win the North.
He'd be a top 2 or 3 quarterback in the NFC.
Yeah.
And who'd be better than him?
He wouldn't even have to run the ball too much.
Who would actually be better than Lamar Jackson in the NFC?
No one.
Jalen Hurts, maybe.
Honestly, I think he'd be better than Hurts.
Or Dak, maybe Dak.
Yeah.
Probably not Dak. Definitely not Dak.
Yeah.
But definitely not Danny Dimes,
Yeah, definitely not.
Definitely not Justin Fields. Definitely not Baker, Kyle Trask, Derek Carr.
And I don't think the amount of money that the Giants gave to Daniel Jones really sets a good example for how much Lamar should get paid. I really don't think so.
That's what happens with a lot of these teams. Their first-round quarterback has a great year, and you give them a shit ton of money. And we saw it, case in point, with the Giants. That's the most recent example of that. I mean, Kyler Murray as well from the same draft class a couple of years ago.
And they haven't done anything.
Murray's more proven, I guess, but the thing that Daniel Jones was the first QB from that class to have a playoff win, no one really saw that coming. So
Not me. Not me.
Yeah. Definitely not me, man.
Yeah. I don't know. The situation in and of itself, the Ravens, they absolutely need him if they want to have any chance in the North, because the Steelers are only going to get better, to be honest. I think Kenny Pickett might actually get a lot better next year. I know Burrow is going to run that division like no tomorrow because the Bengals are just a juggernaut of a team. And then the Browns with Deshaun Watson. They're just set up in a good spot now where you get to learn from last season. Watson's actually going to get a full offseason, a full year in with the team where he's going to be able to operate it his own way. So for the Ravens, it's a must. They have to. They have to get him because, to be honest, if they don't have Lamar, I'm calling it right now. They're finishing dead last.
Yeah, I mean, not unfair at all. They'll have him this year with the tag, but maybe Lamar will continue to hold out. You never know. So we'll see. I mean, he'll make $32 million this year on the tag.
That's a lot. That's more than most.
More
money than most quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, the Ravens. They don't forget they did finish last in the AFC North just 2 years ago, 2021. Started 8-3, finished 8-9. Oh, disgusting.
Absolutely.
That Steelers team, they always cheekily win like 9 games somehow. Really makes no sense. That team should not have won 9 games last year. They started 2-6. Kenny Pickett's so overrated too. That's for another day, but I don't see the hype in Kenny Pickett at all, bro.
I mean, I don't see a strong hype, but I think just based on the way he played at the end of last year, I think there's some promise. It was only his rookie year.
Yeah.
Do I think he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback? No, but he's got potential to help the Steelers to be in a better position than most years.
He had that game-winning drive against the Ravens in Week 17.
Yep.
Yes. A lot of good stuff.
A lot of good stuff, as always, right here on Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy. We thank you all for tuning into this week's episode of more NFL offseason talk. There'll be more to come, but definitely tune in very soon. Definitely not this Thursday, but maybe Friday. We're going to have to talk some basketball because March Madness has really gotten crazy. A lot of upsets to this point, it's been the craziest I think I've seen ever since I started paying attention to college ball. Like, I've never seen this many upsets in a long time.
I was watching Fairleigh Dickinson with your brother the other night in Boston, sipping off a JMO Ginge. I couldn't believe it.
Perfect place to have one, right?
Yeah, I was I did not want to check my Citizens account, man. It was a tough weekend. Not in terms of overall, rowdiness. Your dad did warn me, don't get too rowdy. It's expensive, bro. It's expensive.
Oh, yeah. That's what Boston will do to you.
Yes, sir.
But until then, we will stay tuned and keep up with all this NFL offseason talk and keep you updated on here. But until then, thank you all for tuning into this week's episode. This is Chet and Duffy signing off, and we will catch you all on the next one. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, go Pats.